only knew her. I met her a few times. That's how I knew her.
Okay. And do you remember why you made that decision to hit her with the vehicle?
Yeah, I do. She was talking about calling the cops on me and going to do stuff with my boyfriend at the time. So I got mad and I lashed out.
A woman is in custody after Davenport police say she hit another person with her car. 24-year-old Jhaide G of Davenport faces a felony charge of willful injury. Davenport police were sent to the 1400 block of Clay Street around 4 a.m. Monday for the report of a pedestrian struck by a vehicle. Police say Gay was driving a car and the victim was walking on the sidewalk. They say Gay drove the vehicle onto the sidewalk and struck the person and driving over them. The victim suffered several broken bones and other injuries which will require surgery to repair.
And buckle up for another ridiculous Iowa parole hearing. The victim suffered a broken tibia, a broken fibula, and a broken leg, a broken ankle, and also, it seems, a broken right leg, all of which need surgery. Now, this only happened March 20th of 2023. To add insult to literal injury, she also was driving without a license. She didn't have insurance. The car wasn't registered. Now, she was given a 5-year sentence for willful injury, but yet here she is already up for parole. The sentencing in Iowa, it's all a big gimmick. Now, I'll unpack it with the details at.
Okay, there we go.
Yay!
All right. So it looks like we have Jhaide G up first.
Correct.
Any updates or anything that we should know about her that's not in the recommendation?
I just wanted to point out the fact, and you can see that she has served 73% of her time as the first of the year. She has not finished her high set, but promises that she will finish once released. She thinks it will be easier out there. And I also want to let you know she has worked her entire incarceration. She's got an awesome work ethic, and I do believe she'll be successful. That's it.
So with the time that she has left, it looks like we only have like 3 months. We'd be probably looking at a parole to discharge for her.
Okay.
Is there anything that you would disagree with on that?
I would not.
Okay, perfect. Any questions?
No.
All right, sounds like we're ready to bring her in.
Thank you. Jhaide G.
Good morning.
Good morning. Could you please state your name and your ID number for me?
Jhaide G, 660-4406.
All right, why don't you start by giving us just a brief but detailed explanation of this crime and what was going on in your life at the time?
I'm in here for hitting someone with my vehicle. I was in a bad spot at that time in my life. I was losing custody of my 3-year-old. So I went out and I got high and really drunk. And I lashed out and I hit her with my vehicle. And it was wrong. I know that. So that's what I'm in here for. I wasn't talking to no one for my mental health back then. But I am set up with Fear French now. But because I wasn't talking to nobody, I lashed out.
How are you working to treat your mental health now?
Right now, I'm just set up with Fear French for if I do get released. I got set up with them in Scott County. And I was going to therapy with Free Your Mind. So that's something I continue to do when I get out.
Are you taking any medications right now?
Just for sleeping.
And then you had mentioned, getting out, drinking, getting high. Do you have a history of substance abuse or drinking that was problematic?
When I was younger, I had went to ASAC when I was a kid
Okay.
for drinking. So I have had rehab before.
And how are you feeling now with, your mindset towards drugs and alcohol and any, cravings or anything like that?
I don't have any cravings anymore.
If you are an alcoholic or were an alcoholic, you are an alcoholic today.
I definitely know it's not something I want to get back out and do, because I've seen what I can lose doing it. And I'm not willing to do that again. I lost a lot coming here, so I don't want to backtrack.
And who do you have as a support system to help you stay on that right path?
My parents and my step-parents, my sister. I never really talked to them before, but now being locked up, I have gotten close to them. So now I know I can call and just talk to them and work through stuff now.
And do you have regular contact with them right now?
Yes, I talk to them every day.
Good. And then I think my final question before I see if my colleagues have any questions for you is just to tell us about the family, your family friends that you want to go live with, your relationship with them, how long you've known them, why you think they would be a good spot for you.
I met them when I was 12 years old in a really hard spot. I was pregnant with my first kid at 14. And they kind of took me in and helped me. They're really close with my parents. They talk regularly. So they just really have been a good support system for me being there. I know they won't let me do no wrong.
Well, it sounds like you have a lot of people who really care about you and are there in your corner and want you to succeed.
Yes, they do. It took me a long time to see that.
Well, those are the only questions I had to start. I'm going to see if my colleagues have any questions for you. Jesse, any questions?
Yeah, I do. Good morning.
Good morning.
So who was the victim to you at that time?
I really only knew her. I met her a few times. We did drugs together, to be honest. That's how I knew her.
Okay. And do you remember why you made that decision to hit her with the vehicle?
Yeah, I do. She was talking about calling the cops on me, and going to do stuff with my boyfriend at the time. So I got mad and I lashed out. I had been up for a couple days. I know it was wrong, and I shouldn't have did it. I could have just talked to her. We could have worked it out, but that's not how it went down.
And what have you learned since you've been incarcerated on how to deal with situations like that?
I learned that not everything needs a reaction. Not everything deserves a reaction from me. Some things are just better off walking away, and that's what I do now. I've had some very hard times in here that I've had to walk away from. I've had someone spit on me, and I left and I went and talked to somebody else about it, and I went in my room. I didn't fight them. I didn't do anything. That's what I learned.
That's a good answer and a really good example, and I appreciate that. And that's our hopes, is that you have a different tool set for yourself in case you encounter something like that. Your counselor stated that you have great work ethics. Where do you get that from?
Just from my parents. They've always worked my whole life, so I know I have to work. I like to stay busy and keep my mind going. I've worked outside the fence here. I've had the same job here for 8 months.
Perfect. And let me ask you this. What do you like about yourself that has changed since the incident?
I think I know myself a little better. I just think I don't really know how to answer that.
It's a good
Honestly.
question.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that.
That's okay. And I appreciate you trying. And you say that your support system is your parents right now?
Yes.
Is there anybody around your age that you can talk to that has not gotten in trouble that you can count on?
Yeah, my sister.
Good. And how often do you guys speak to each other?
When I call my mom at home, we talk on the phone.
Hey, thank you for asking the questions I did have. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
James, any questions?
Yeah. How you doing this morning, Ms. Gay?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, doing pretty good. When I was listening to you share about not reacting how you used to, what would you say you value, or what would be some of your values today that you didn't have prior to channeling from those emotions or channeling from those initial reactions you used to have?
Definitely my freedom. That's definitely one. I've never been in trouble before, so like I don't have a criminal history. This is my first time messing up. So being away from my family and my kids has this isn't something I want to be familiar with. I don't want to do this again. I don't want to be away from my kids again. And I found out like my parents and family really do love me. You know, I always thought they were just being mean to me, but they were just being my parents. So I value that.
That sounds good. Just, your family. We partially heard, but your work ethic, having hobbies. What are some of your hobbies that you also have? Because, when family is not there, sister's not there, and now you have to lean on Miss Gay, what are your other hobbies or other interests that you have that kind of helps you to, continue that growth spurt or continuing that growth and being better?
I like walking. I love taking walks and reading.
You are trash, Lindsay. You are trash.
Reading because it puts me in a different, place. Like I'm there with the book. And just walking just to free my mind.
Okay. Now, one of the things I want to ask is, what do you fear as you prepare to potentially leave? What is your biggest fear?
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Of letting myself down and letting my family down. I don't want to mess up again.
Okay.
I do want to.
I'm sorry. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, I said I do have to succeed, so that's what I fear, is not being able to do what I need to.
Okay. I think that's partially where one of my colleagues was kind of going to when he was talking with you about asking you, besides your parents and your sister, what are other, places of support that you can lean on that could also be beneficial towards your growth and stuff, so that when you're taking on those challenges and stress is high, because we all going to get our stresses, and how we is the biggest thing. You having that support system around you to wrap around you could be beneficial towards your growth, your continued growth, I should say. That concludes my questions. I appreciate what you were able to answer.
Thank you.
All right, so now is your time to tell us anything else that you'd like for us to know, or anything that you might have prepared for us today.
No, I just want to say that I am sorry for what I did, and that I do know it was wrong. I just want to let that be known, that not a day goes by that I don't think about what I did, because I don't know what kind of effects it had on her. So I am sorry.
Appreciate you saying that. All right, so we're gonna go into our deliberation. So we'll have you sit back and listen. I do want you to know that this interview with you is just a part of what we look at when we're making our decisions. So, we've had a chance to review, your counselor's recommendation. We can see, your work history while you've been there. We can see the treatment that you've done. We can see, any information about your crimes or your history, any correspondence we've received. We have a whole lot of information that we're able to review and access. So if you hear us talking about things that we didn't discuss in the interview, that's why. We're going to have you sit back, listen, and we'll let you know what our decision is.
Okay.
All right, so Jesse or James, what are your thoughts on, so like I said earlier, with the 3 months left, we'd really be looking at a parole to discharge.
No, I think the interview was solid, and I think a simple thing like good work ethics follows you through to a successful life. And I believe she got her practice in on the working part. It's just putting everything else back into motion, staying in touch with the Fair French and her support system. So I will be in agreement with the DOC recommendation, but with our decision to immediately discharge the PGD 30, no codes necessary.
Okay, James, what are your thoughts?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm in agreement with my colleague. I thought this was a very nice interview. The thing that kind of grabbed me was her sharing what she's lost and what family means to her, and recognizing that if she had the opportunity again, she would love to have done this differently than the way she had. She talked about breaking bread, we call it, sitting down with the other person, being able to talk through those situations, even though that could be kind of delicate, but still being able to talk through it instead of the decision that she made, I thought was a grabber for me. And then just hearing, her work ethic, hearing how she's worked and engaged with her counselor there. You can tell that there was a nice, respectful relationship and that she leaned on some of the information that was stated. And then just along with her, just, having challenges, she shared with us, getting spit on and learning how to walk away when her reaction might have been different. So highlighting those things and the things that you all shared, I'm in agreement too with DOC's recommendation. But instead of a parole to a friend or whatever, parole to immediate discharge. So PGD 30.
I agree. With the time left, I think that it's appropriate, and she is an A commit with minimal criminal history. She has remained completely report free her entire time, which is also a big, that's difficult especially for younger people to do that. So I think that that's impressive and should be noted. She has all of the things set up to help her when she leaves, and she's identified where to go for those services. So I think this is one that I'm comfortable with. All right, so Ms. Gay, you heard our discussion, and we are going to grant your release today. So because you only have about 3 months left on your sentence, we are not going to require any terms of parole. You're going to be discharged without conditions, okay? Now, that doesn't mean that you can walk out today. They'll work with you to set up, when people are going to come get you and everything like that, but it's effective today. So we're, we don't have any conditions to require for you to do all of those things that you talked about, but I would encourage you to work on that plan that you've talked with your family about, with your counselor about. You really have some good things in place identified that can help you be successful, and it's just up to you to get out there and make sure that you stick with those.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank
Good
you
luck.
for your time today. And
Good luck.
Another brilliant Iowa parole hearing. I can never get over Moses. What did you do to learn what you did to change before, after you did to learn to yesterday to how you are today? And it's like, wow, that's great. So, so what do you do for fun? What do you do, to get things off your mind? I go for walks. Okay, great job. So, do you think you need to do substance abuse? Well, I did do it when I was little, but I don't need it anymore because I just don't want to do it anymore. Woo, Iowa, you're really something. You really are. I mean, she literally drove over a woman intentionally. She could have gotten, I don't know, attempted murder, you would think. I mean, she intentionally drove over someone just because, that someone pissed her off. This is not normal. People do not do things like that. She caused so much injury. Remember, a broken tibia, a broken fibula, a broken ankle, a broken right leg. I mean, this is just what these are not, you don't just forget this. You can be left crippled. This just happened. The whole sentencing guideline with Iowa. Remember this article that I'm reading, it was published March 20th of 2023. She is given a 5-year sentence. Thank you, Holly, for pulling this. I mean, it's just, what are they talking about? She's getting released in 3 months anyways. None of that makes sense. And by the way, she had gotten in trouble before. Look, sentence 10/26/2016, no driver's license. And if you get sentenced for not having a driver's license, if that goes on your record, chances are there's something more going on. You don't just get a no driver's license ticket. 12/15/2022, driving while license denied, suspended, or canceled. This was not her first trip on the rodeo, driving with, out caring about the law. Yet here they are coddling her and allowing her to say, I have nothing else on my record. 4/3/2023. This is where she does the whole driving without registration, driving again without a license, driving without insurance. And let's see, they do for all, they just willful injury causing serious bodily injury. What was the plea deal they did? I don't know. They and this is Holly's notes. I'm confused as hell. There was no time served. So it was 5 years from 9/6/2023. That would be 9/5/2028. They claim she'll be out in 3 months regardless of their decision. So what the hell happened to the other 3 years? She did 2 years for running over a human, basically in a hissy fit. Well said, Holly. That's exactly how I feel. And it's because the sentencing in Iowa, it's all a gimmick. There's like these weird things where you only have to serve a certain. We've read articles before where the average sentence served in Iowa is like 20% of your sentence, because you get it's something like you get 70%, which you have to serve, but then you get all this good time, and the average is out to like 20. I don't know. But if you wonder, well, what's the big deal? She only lost her temper. Surely Iowa would be more strict if she was drinking while driving. Well, let's find out. We're about to watch the parole hearing of a man who, in his own words, got blackout intoxicated and got into his car and severely injured 2 people. Do you think if a man like this said that he would get out and drink again, if he actually told the parole board that he intends to drink when he gets out, do you think that the Iowa parole board would grant a man who says that? Well, we're about to find out.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. So we got Mr. Smith up next.
Yes.
Anything new from the eval submitted?
Just probably closer to completing that apprenticeship he is doing out at Quantum Plastics. He was around 1,700 hours, and now that it's been another 2 months, I think, since I submitted it, he probably has pretty close to completing that, since they work 12-hour shifts.
And if he is released, will he be able to complete that? Or is he gonna, what's the plan?
Well, he would be technically close enough if he wanted to continue working there. He does have, where he worked at US Cellular before, they're willing to give him his job back there. And the Big 3 construction, where he can work full time. That was his plan, but I think by the time he leaves, he should be having those 2,000 hours completed.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Perfect. Colleagues, you have any questions?
I don't.
We can go and bring them in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good, thank you. Please state your full name and your state number.
Rece Smith, 609-2600.
So let's start off by going back to the day of the crime. What brought you here? I need you to describe it. What were you doing that day? What happened that day?
Oh, I got a phone call from my buddies. They wanted to go out to the bars. I said, yeah, I'll go out with you guys. They came over that day. We had a few drinks at my place. And then we got a ride to the bars downtown on Court Avenue. We were down there for quite some time, heavily binge drinking. I also participated in some illegal drug use. And then things got out of, or after drinking so long, I blacked out for a period of time. I woke up in an unfamiliar place and I wanted to go home. I made the worst decision I could have ever made in my life, and I got behind the wheel of a vehicle, still very much intoxicated. And on the way home, I crashed into a vehicle. I almost killed two people that were in that vehicle, Michael and Caitlin. I changed their lives forever. I also changed their families' lives forever. It was the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life. And I'm terribly sorry for that action. There's nothing I can do to take it back, and I'm just willing to do everything I can to prevent it from happening again.
So you said you changed their life forever. What have you changed forever?
I've changed my habits. I've changed my outlook on life. It changed my course of where my life was going. It changed that drastically. It changed a lot.
What was your plan
Back
for
then,
life before this?
I just got a job in insurance, and I got on as a temp agent at that time, and they were gonna hire me full time. But then this happened, and through certain circumstances, I wasn't able to pass a background check anymore, and I couldn't continue working there. And I moved out of Des Moines, and then I moved into my brother's house and tried to get my feet back on track and see where it goes from there.
So when you were drinking, how heavy were you drinking at those times?
It wasn't often, it was every weekend. I was a social binge drinker. Out on the golf course at certain events, but it wasn't every day.
And what kind of drugs did you involve yourself with that day?
Marijuana and cocaine.
Do you have a sponsor now? And if no, why?
What do you mean by sponsor?
Like through AA, NA, any kind of sponsor?
Yeah, I got the group leader of AA in here. I meet with him. We've been meeting together for a little over a year now. He's been down some time, and he's kind of counseling me on some things. And then that year and a half that I was out going through the trials and everything of this case, I was participated in therapy, and I also participated in a substance abuse counseling, which I will continue both of those once I get out.
I appreciate that, because that was my next question. So this has been your first incarceration in prison, correct?
Correct.
So what will you do to never come back?
I will never get behind the wheel of a vehicle again. I won't participate in any drug use. I'm gonna stick with contact with my family. They've been helping me out a lot through this. They're a big support system for me. And I've made some changes in my friend group as well.
I didn't hear nothing mentioned about alcohol yet.
I won't drink again. If I do, it will be one at dinner.
You are trash.
If I'm out, like on a date or something, but it won't ever become a binge drinking thing. I won't. That day changed my outlook on drinking and what comes with that.
Did it change enough for you to quit completely?
I think with time out in the community and me going back to dealing with the substance abuse counselor, I think it will.
You gotta want to quit first. It just doesn't happen, you know.
No, I know that.
I have no further questions. So I'm gonna turn it over to my colleagues. James?
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Mrs. Smith, when I hear you kind of go back and forth of not drinking to possibly, what would you say that you value today that you didn't value prior to being incarcerated?
You are trash.
Probably spending time with my family. I've come to realize that that's probably the biggest value that I took for granted while I was out there drinking. My mom would ask me to go to my sister's cheerleading events, and I'd say no because I'd be too worried about going out with my friends. But after that that choice of going or not going getting taken away from me, I would say that is the biggest thing I'm going to value when I get out, is being with my family.
Okay. Because what you shared and what that pause was is a reality. You know, it's the unknown of what you might likely do as you potentially prepare to transition from where you're at. So that's what really prompted my question to you about what you value, because if you're able to align your values to what's important, then you'll have the stick-to-itiveness to reframe when the situation is tempting, if that makes sense.
It does not make sense.
It does.
Okay. Actually, that was the only question I wanted to ask, with a little bit of sharing. I have no further questions, and I'm gonna conclude my interview. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Dana?
Good afternoon, Rece. How are you?
As good as expected.
Okay. A little nervous, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, so my questions, we've done a lot of research, looked at a lot of stuff, you know, in preparation for this interview. This interview is just a small part of it, you know, our decision-making process here. And I just had some questions that I wanted to clear up. So, you know, the accident, you know, happened at Fleur and the Highway 5 bypass. Where were you living at the time?
In Norwalk.
Okay, so you lived in Norwalk?
Yep.
Okay, so you were trying to get back home then, obviously. And during the year and a half or so between, the time of the accident and, the time of sentencing, you moved to Independence. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Okay, what were you doing in Independence? What kind of work did you have lined up there?
I was a full-time employee at a US Cellular store in Independence.
Okay. And living with your brother?
Yep.
Okay. And during incarceration, you've been working, actually put a lot of hours in at Quantum Plastics, I see.
Yep.
So, when you talked about, what has changed for you and, my colleagues asked, what some of the things you need to do when you get out to make sure this doesn't happen again. And the drinking piece, we seem to waffle on that a little bit, about, never get behind the wheel again when I'm drunk or what have you. The problem is the drinking itself leads to that, the bad decision of getting behind the wheel. And the reason I come back to that is I think that, maintaining complete sobriety, drugs, alcohol, everything, I think that's paramount because there was a victim impact statement that was included in some of the documents that we received that I read. There are considerable injuries to the people in the car that you struck, and you mentioned it. You were very forthcoming about that, but I read it and read through the description. You're right; their lives are changed forever. I mean, just normal daily tasks are, now a struggle. I don't want you to, relive this moment every waking moment of your life, but I think understanding the seriousness of what happened, I think is important to keep you focused, zeroed in on that success. Because when I read this, I can tell you, I was really on the fence of how this interview was going to go for me. I really was, because it was pretty amazing, that someone wasn't killed. So when my colleagues talk about, things like sponsors and things like AA, and you talk about therapy and counseling and maintaining that, in my opinion, none of that is optional. It just can't be. Because we're going to be tasked with making a decision that will impact your future, but the impact on the people that were in that car, I mean, they don't get a decision like that, right? I mean, they just have to deal with it. So your intent is to go back to Independence, Iowa, and then long term, where do you see yourself? What does success look like for you 5 years from now?
5 years from now, I hopefully, if my plan goes according to plan, I want to move out of Iowa. I want to move over to South Carolina, start up a business over there, and just live over there. I was out of high school. I started working at a junk removal company, and that's one of a business that I want to get started and see where that goes.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Do you have any follow-up?
No, that's good.
Okay, Mr. Smith, like I told you in the beginning, if you have anything that you prepared and would like the board to know at this time, you have the floor to make a statement.
As he was talking about the seriousness of the injuries that they've sustained, I do remember one of the things that hit me the hardest during the day of sentencing. They read a victim impact statement, and this has stuck with me ever since then, is he turned and looked at me, Michael did, and said that he used to run marathons. That was his favorite pastime, was running marathons, and he'll never get to run again. And I sat there and just contemplated like golfing. Like if I could never swing a golf club again, I'd be devastated. And that's something that I took from him, and he may never be able to get that back. And that is the biggest thing that's driving me right now to maintain sobriety, is that impact statement that he read and those injuries that they sustained. I do not want that to happen to anybody ever again.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I appreciate that. We're going to go into what's called deliberation. Like I told you, we're going to make a decision. So just sit back and listen. When we're done, I'll come back to you and explain the decision we make, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Colleagues, who would like to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Thanks. Listening to the interview, I did appreciate this interview from Mr. Smith, even just to the last bit of what he shared, acknowledging the person and what impacted him still to this day, from, in comparison to what he, feels that if he couldn't do again, what the impact is to the victim. One of the victims that was involved in this case. It was definitely a tragic incident. Luckily, it didn't end with, a death or homicide, or manslaughter, excuse me. But anyway, him sharing just some of the growth, you can tell that he's had some therapy, but is still in need of more therapy. There is some guilt. There is some mental health that is, still very apparent, that needs to be continued so that he can continue to be better. It was good to hear him talk about what he would like to do in his 5-year plan, which he doesn't want to be here, but wants to go with the business that he had in mind to start somewhere in South Carolina. It was good to hear him talk about what he values his family, just not getting to do some of the things that he didn't appreciate initially. The concern was just that waffling, that we kind of all in our way touched on, where, what's important, and the time that has been taken away, which is why I love, what we talk about in our way, what he values, because there's a significant amount of time that's taken away because of just the decisions that he made come from court normal. But in light, he's done some good work thus far, and still willing to be better. And from that standpoint, I agree with DOC's recommendation with the PG D3, also adding 20 for non discharge. So that allowed him to basically be as independence. 48 with the substance abuse, that he should continue, and then the mental health therapy session that I think is very common. He's continuing to practice working with professionals, for the learning process, and then again, probation.
Dennis, Missouri.
No. It's independent side.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Perfect. Thank you very much. And Dana.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. When I started my research on this and I started going through it, I'm looking at the details, and then I found a victim impact statement that he mentioned Michael read it at sentencing. There's a copy of that that I was able to scare up, and I read that. And my thoughts at that point were, he's got a discharge date in 2026. He can just sit there. I mean, that's where my mind went originally when I read that statement. And then I looked at, okay, yeah, and I rely on your guys' experience, and the things that you talk about and the things that are important to you. And then I started thinking, okay, what good is it going to do him if I just make him sit there? I mean, what are we going to gain? And the answer really is nothing. Now, you guys gave him suggestions on what he needs to do to be successful. And I agree with all those things. I have changed my mind on this. I'm going to agree with the DOC's recommendation. But I really want him to prove me right. But it's going to take a lot of work. You talk about the alcohol prohibition. Obviously, that has to happen. The substance abuse and mental health. But these are things he has to do on his own. It's going to be on him. But if he does all those things and maintains that focus, he can prove us right if we make this decision to release him. But I'm going to agree with James, with parole to his brothers in Independence, Iowa, and with those treatment codes on there. then I want him to go out there and do it.
No, and Dana, I was in the same place. And then the big picture for me is like, he needs services outside. A lot of times when you throw somebody straight parole, I'm done, I don't have to do nothing, and it's easy to forget about it. I think with this little bit of a tail back in, he's got basically to January of 26. He can reach out and figure out those services that are working for him, that don't work for him, but there's services out there that he's going to take. My biggest struggle is the waffling with the drinking as well, because I know a binge drinker cannot become a social drinker. It doesn't happen that way. And so my advice would be just let it go, period. And that's going to be my hope. And I hope he figures that out, because if he has another charge ever again, like in the like of this, whatever time he just did, it's going to be nothing compared to. So I'm going to be in agreement with this as well. I'm going to go back and explain.
Do we have the decision to put him on the
Scram.
alcohol?
That's a very good idea. We do.
No.
I think we do.
Is that different than GPS?
Yeah,
It's kind of,
it's free though.
yeah, it's offered through, it's just one of those monitors where it's a breathalyzer, and you come in at the times that it's worked out within the PO, and then you're able to have in those time zones 2 times within the day, depending on what the schedule allows. But it also helps to monitor, a person that, does not need to be around any alcohol.
That's good.
Just to kind of reinforce just our overall position of the severity to not waffle on, drinking in this case.
Okay, Mr. Smith. You heard us all deliberate, and you know what our concerns are. I'm just gonna tell you straight up, drinking is gonna be a concern, because after something like this, if you hated the time you did now, I wouldn't even come close to alcohol if I were you. That'd be my suggestion. And also, you heard some codes that we said. First of all, we are gonna grant you release. Okay, you're gonna go to your brother's house. We believe that you need to get involved with those services that we're going to tell you about here in a second, because I think it'll help you in the long run. I think you have great potential to do well, but I think alcohol will steal that from you as well. So the codes that you heard us talk about was the PGD3. That means you're going to parole to your brother's house. The 40A, we're going to recommend that you go on Scram, which is like it's like a blow and go portable, and that's free through the districts usually, and just for accountability. We also want you to engage in some mental health, just to see where you're based on what, you've had some tragedy and the change of life of going to prison, what happened with the incident. So we want you to get a baseline, at least on your mental health. And we're putting the 50A on you as well, where that's an alcohol prohibition. We don't want you to drink, period. No bars, no liquor stores, no drinking, period. Okay? Do you have any questions?
No.
You got 3 people here that are co-signing this one in great hope that you'll do well. Prove us right.
That's my plan.
Okay.
I hope to prove you guys right.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck, Mr. Smith. Do well, man.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Jim.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
This doesn't look like retirement, Mr. Wingert. Just saying.
Let's just say it's a lot less stress.
No.
Different kind of stress.
A different kind of stress. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
All right. Well, you
we're
guys
blessed
have
to have them.
Take care now.
all right. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Bye.
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 And the one person handpicked by the governor recently that you might think would have some common sense was that man, the former chief of police. Okay. selected to join the parole board to make common sense decisions. But even he is swayed into the insanity of allowing someone who has a long record of driving offenses. Wait till we go through it. He actually gets into a car completely blasted, drives into it, nearly kills the people. We can only imagine how severely injured they were. Then gets up at his parole hearing with the audacity to say, yeah, I'll drink every now and again. And then, he comes on, the former police, the chief, and says, I wasn't going to do it, but I was swayed. I was swayed to grant parole, because what's the point? You know what the point is? There's a point. There's 3 points. Mr. O'Shea says this out of Louisiana often. We keep people locked up for rehabilitation, which this man is not. For protection of the community, which is clear that we still need to protect the community. And for retribution. Do you think the family that is forever having their life altered wants him out already? You're allowed to punish someone when they say, I'm going to have a drink. You can send a message. We do that to our children all the time because we love them, because we care about them. We say, wait a minute, what did you think you're going to? No, parole's going to be denied. This is no laughing matter. You can't have a drink ever again. On a date? You're going to get back into a car after you have a drink on a date? Denied. That's so easy. They don't even challenge him. Oh, really? You what's a sponsor? Oh yeah, I have this man. Well, what's step 3? Clearly, he has not done his programs. If he would say those words to the parole board, he doesn't even know he should fake it. You think he's not going to go back out and have a drink? He just said he will. Iowa's dangerous. Let me share with you the info. Thank you, Holly. Pulling it up. I'm going to go through his long record. So, criminal history. This is Holly knows. This dude should not be allowed to drive. Isn't that the understatement of the century? But, it's like when you see this stuff, look at this. So, it's starting in 2014. Violation. So, he has an accident, it seems, without insurance. This is in 2014. 1/29/2014. 5/2/2014. Failure to maintain control. And he has scheduled violation. I don't know. I think maybe that's having substances. 2017, speeding over 55. And remember, he's getting sentences for this. This isn't normal stuff, right? This is a speeding ticket. He has 6/27/2018 excessive speed. 3/12/2020, another speeding thing. 10/4/2021, another speeding. 8/11/2022, assault. Okay. 2/8/2023, speeding. 10/10/2023, no insurance, failure to maintain control, operating non-registered vehicle. 4/24/2022, serious injury, no insurance, operating without. There's no articles, there's no news on this. This is just under the rug. Look at his driving record. And then they actually say, if you come back, you're really going to get in trouble. It's like, no, he knows he's not going to get in trouble. This is Iowa. He is getting in a missile over and over and over again for his entire life. It was an accident waiting to happen. Everybody Everybody saw it. And then finally, he gets in a situation where he severely hurts. You can, that this person is never going to be able to run a marathon again, maybe even walk. And he has the audacity or the complete unawareness to even lie about his intention to drink. And they parole him. This is the kind of case that we see him get back into a car and kill someone, and they're going to show the footage of this parole hearing, and no one's going to believe it. But we all seen it coming. The strangest thing about what we see with every other parole board, they take DUIs so seriously. You know why? You'll see that they'll release chomos, they'll release murderers, they'll release the worst of the worst offenders. But DUI offenders, all the other parole boards, they don't. And you know why they don't? They don't because it's too risky for them. They know there's a good chance that a drunk will get back in a car, and if they kill them, it's going to make the news, and it's going to be on them. But this Iowa parole board, they're so stuck up in La La Land somewhere, they don't even have their own self-preservation. The former police chief, if you're wondering, well, why didn't he just deny anyways? The problem with the Iowa parole board rules is that they take the strictest ruling, and that's rules. So it's not like 2-1 or 3-3. It's the strict. So if one person says no, or even sets a condition, it has to be that way. Now, I could imagine that there was somewhere at some point in history in the Iowa, they passed that legislation because they thought that it would be better for the parole board, but it's not. We can see it's really a dumb rule, because what you have is you have people who are afraid to talk up for themselves. They're afraid to alter. He's the new guy in town. He's only recently added to the parole board. Maybe he doesn't want to, he said it, you guys made a good point, but no, he should stand up and make his point and give a mic drop and maybe alter their opinions, or at least set the record straight how he feels about it as a former police chief. No, he still should have had the backbone to do it. But that's part of the problem with Iowa. They need to change that rule. But they have a lot of problems. That's the least of the worries. This is going nowhere good. We all see it coming. And with that, I'll let you go.
I didn't hear nothing mentioned about alcohol yet.
I won't drink again. If I do, it will be one at dinner if I'm out, like on a date or something, but it won't ever become a binge drinking thing. I won't. That day changed my outlook on drinking and what comes with that.
Did it change enough for you to quit completely?